US President Joe Biden has issued an official pardon for his son Hunter, who was facing jail time for federal gun and tax convictions. The charges will be terminated once the pardon enters the official court proceedings. Joe Biden is being accused of hypocrisy.
It is the presidential pardon he had said he would never make. After a Thanksgiving weekend with the family in Nantucket, this statement from the US president. Today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word even as I've watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. But now it is full clemency for Hunter Biden over criminal convictions in 2 cases. One where he lied about his drugs use when purchasing a gun, and the second for tax fraud, both of which could have seen him jailed in sentencing later this month. The Bidens have long maintained that these cases were pursued as vigorously as they were because Donald Trump saw in them an opportunity to attack his political rival.
But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level.
On his social media platform, Trump questioned whether President Biden's pardon included those imprisoned as a result of the attack on the US Capitol, who he describes as hostages, calling it an abuse and a miscarriage of justice. As for Hunter Biden, he said on Sunday that he took full responsibility for his mistakes. I will never take the clemency I've been given today for granted, and will devote the life I've rebuilt to helping those who are still sick and suffering. Given Trump's threats of retribution on his political enemies and his latest nomination of ultra-loyalist Kash Patel as FBI director, a clear indication he means to make good on them, Joe Biden has chosen to do what he can for his family, even if it's perhaps not quite the presidential legacy that he would like to be leaving.
Let's get some analysis now. I'm joined by the Director of Research at the US Study Centre, Jared Mondschein. Jared, what do you make of the decision by Joe Biden to grant this pardon? We've seen presidents grant pardons late in their term, but this was one that he unequivocally ruled out intervening on earlier.
Yeah, he was quite clear on a number of instances that he was not going to do this. And so the fact that he did this in the end really flies in the face of what he had been trying to build for many years, in that he claimed he was an institutionalist who was going to abide by the rule of law, was not going to interfere with what the Justice Department was doing. But in many ways, you have to say and admit that what Joe Biden said about the justice system and how politically tainted he deemed it to be, in many ways resembled what his successor and predecessor said about the justice system, and that it was politically charged and not relevant. So he had to step in. So as much as Joe Biden has tried to differentiate himself from Donald Trump, in this instance, they definitely sound very similar.
Yeah, and it gives his critics, the opponents of the Biden administration, just fodder to give him a whack as he departs the White House.
Exactly, and that's why you see Democrats, a lot of Democrats coming out in droves against this decision, leading Democrats criticizing the president, and even the very strong and diverse Never Trump coalition fraying on this one. As much as you have former Obama administration Attorney General Eric Holder defending Joe Biden's decision, you have a number of other Democrats, including the governor of Colorado, amongst others, who have said that this was not the right decision for Biden to make, that this actually weakens the rule of law in the United States and only muddies the water for future presidential interventions in the Department of Justice's work moving forward.
Jared, we've seen some interesting appointments, some welcomed, some questioned, both on Capitol Hill and more broadly. Where are we at when it comes to the formulation of Donald Trump's incoming cabinet?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing in his cabinet is a reflection of who he is and how he's changed from when he first took office in 2017. When he first took office in 2017, he, in many ways, was not expecting to win that election and had not come fully prepared to staff a full administration. 8 years later, we're in a very different situation. You have some of the similar characters who we saw before including his Council of Economic Advisors chair, including his Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller. But you also have a lot more fervent Trump supporters at this point. You know, the fact that we are considering looking at Kash Patel to lead the FBI, that's something that Trump, the former president, only wanted in the last few years of his administration. He's not someone that was even well known beforehand. So I think we're in a very different situation altogether. With that said, a lot of these positions will need to be confirmed by the Senate, and so nothing is sure just yet.
And with that, just finally, with that confirmation process, do you see a sense that Republicans, given Trump's hold on the base, given his emphatic win at the presidential election, do they still feel that they are in a position where they can knock back a fair chunk of these nominees?
Yeah, that's a great question, because as much as Trump has really won over the Republican base, you know, a lot of the senators, remember, they're on 6-year appointments, and some of them just won re-election and are not up for re-election for 6 years. That means 2 years after the Trump administration ends. They are looking at their future and the political calendar and saying, you know what, he's term restricted. He can't actually do much to me 6 years from now when he's out of office. So maybe I'm not going to be okay with someone like Kash Patel as much as they might be okay with other less conventional choices. So I think it's really important to note that as much as Trump has unified the Republican Party and done far better than many expected him to do in the third presidential election in a row that he's been on the ballot, he still has some limitations to power.
Great analysis as always, Jared Mondschein from the US Study Centre. Thanks for your time, appreciate it.